Thank you for viewing the NSCAS alternate training for proctors. This training provides step-by-step instructions for administering the NSCAS alternate tests. The student's primary mode of communication is always recognized and accommodated. Test pages and response methods may be adapted to meet individual student needs. Online administration. Students capable of using touch-enabled devices or other computer-based input devices will be able to respond to items themselves. If a student cannot select responses in the DRC Insight, proctors will capture the student's responses and enter them into the online system to be scored. On-demand student test booklets, Forms A and B, are available for printing for students that require paper testing. The teacher test booklets or administration manuals and student test booklets are form specific. Each district was pre-assigned either Form A or Form B. Be sure the form on the manual and test booklet matches the form indicated on the student's test ticket. That will be used if the proctor needs to transcribe the student's information from the paper booklet onto the DRC Insight test engine. So you want to make sure that that form is correct, so because those forms are scrambled differently, and if you use Form B when the student was pre-assigned Form A, those items will not line up correctly. Test security. Tests are to be administered on a one-to-one basis. Test content is to be viewed only by those individuals directly responsible for test administration. Proctors should study the NSCAS alternate teacher test booklet or administration manual and become familiar with the test format prior to test administration. Do not discuss, disseminate, or otherwise reveal contents of the test to anyone. Do not copy, download, reproduce, or use any test content. Test security continued. Students must not be left alone with the test materials. Students cannot take test materials out of the testing site. Do not coach or provide feedback in any way, including prompting or answering questions related to contents of the test. Do not alter, influence, or interfere with a test response in any way. And refer to the NSCAS alternate teacher test booklets or administration manual for complete test security procedures. Test materials for proctoring the NSCAS alternate. At a minimum, proctors will need a copy of the grade and form-specific NSCAS alternate teacher test booklet / administration manual and online student test tickets to administer the test. The print-on-demand NSCAS alternate administration manual contains the familiar item-by-item prompts that inform proctors of what to do and say when administering the test. Online student test tickets contain unique usernames and passwords for a student that must be used to access tests for all subjects assessed at the student's grade. Print-on-demand NSCAS alternate student test booklets are available for students requiring paper pencil administration. And proctors must record the student's responses when the test is administered offline and transcribe the responses into DRC Insight in order for them to be scored. Keep in mind the administration manuals and student test booklets are form specific, as I stated earlier, and each district was pre-assigned Form A or B. So again, make sure that the teacher test booklet / administration manual matches the student's test booklets. The NSCAS alternate teacher test booklet / administration manual is what you'll need. An online test ticket, as this bullet says, and the student test booklet for students requiring paper pencil administration. And again, we point out on this slide that they are form specific, so make sure that that teacher test booklet / administration manual matches that student test booklet. All NSCAS alternate teacher test booklet / administration manual and student test booklets contain secure content and must be downloaded electronically and stored locally. Printed NSCAS alternate teacher test booklets, student test booklets, and online test tickets must be stored securely until testing is finished. And then districts are responsible for the secure destruction of the printed NSCAS alternate materials. The materials that you print from the DRC Insight portal do not need to be sent back to DRC. So again, please make sure that you securely destroy those booklets once the students have completed testing. Proctor responsibilities for online administration include login, navigation from item to item, enabling and operating optional online tools, and ending the test. Signing in. Proctors will sign in the student to access the test by completing the following on the next slides. The process also appears in the signing in section of the NSCAS alternate administration manual. Access to the test is the same for all subjects, which have the same tools, buttons, and options. And a note, the DRC Insight client must be installed on the computer or touchscreen device to be used during the test prior to the administration. Once you have signed the students in, the teacher will then say, today you will begin taking the English language arts test. First, I will sign you in. The say prompt in the bold text indicates statements proctors will read aloud and change the subject being tested to mathematics or science as appropriate. Signing in again. Select the DRC Insight icon on the screen. The DRC Insight application opens after you would select the DRC Insight test sign-in. And then this is the NSCAS alternate assessment portal page. So then you would select the test sign-in. The login box will then open. Enter username and password that appears on the student's online test ticket, which are unique to each student. Note that the same online test ticket will be used to access the test for each subject. And once you have put in that student's information, you will then click the sign in button. And then over on the right, you'll see a sample student test ticket. You'll see the username and password below. Signing in continued. After a successful login, the student verification page displays. Verify that all the information is appearing correctly, as you see here on the screen. The student's name and NSSRS ID will match the information that appears on the student's online test ticket. If you determine that the ticket used to log in was for another student, you'll want to exit the test and close the DRC application. If everything is correct, then you would select continue. Once you select continue, a screen with the links to the test that have been scheduled for the student will appear. Note that you will only see science if students are in grades 5, 8, or high school. And then you'll select the appropriate content area. The selected test will load and the directions will display. Administering the test. Begin by reading the following statement aloud. Say, "You are now signed into the test." This screen contains general directions to complete the English Language Arts test. Follow along as I read the directions. Read the directions that appear on the screen aloud to the student. Directions, English Language Arts. This test has questions about reading and writing. Follow along as each question is read to you. Then select the answer you think is correct. After you answer the question, select the right arrow to go to the next question. Now select the Begin Test button to see the first question. And the screenshot you see here is for the practice test or the OTTs. So the example for the directions is a little bit different, but for the directions for the test, what I read is what you'll read from the test administration manual. Administering the test, proctors follow the familiar prepare, say, ask process in the teacher test booklet / administration manual to administer items to the students one at a time. For online administrations, proctors will draw the student's attention to the test page that displays in the DRC Insight instead of in a paper student booklet. Students may respond to items directly in DRC Insight either by touching the response option of their choice on the touch-enabled device or by selecting the answers with the pointer using a mouse or other input device. If a student can view items online in the DRC Insight but cannot directly interact with the online test engine to select responses, the student may indicate his or her answer choices to the proctor in another way, and the proctor can select the answers the student indicated on the student's behalf. Student booklets may be printed on demand for students who are capable of responding to items presented on screen. If a printed student booklet is used, the proctor must faithfully record the student's responses, sign in with the student's online test ticket, and enter the student's responses on the student's behalf. Only tests submitted online will be scored, so you need to make sure that if you have to transcribe for the student, you want to make sure that you have that paper version after they have completed, and you put that into the DRC Insight test engine. Administering the test. This slide offers an example of what proctors should read aloud, word for word, for each question. Proctors must understand this process before administering the test. The proctor may read test items and responses, if allowed, in the item-specific instructions as many times as needed or requested by the student. There is no limit placed on the rereading opportunities. The information about the indicator assessed by the item and depth of knowledge in the top box is provided to support the test administration process. The proctor must read text in bold print, word for word. Text in italics directs the proctors to perform certain actions and is not to be read aloud to the student. And the letters that appear next to each item choice in the Ask section are only displayed in the test administration manual. They do not appear in the DR Insight or in the print-on-demand student test booklets and should not be read aloud to students. Proctors recording responses on a student's behalf during paper administration may want to use the letters to capture the student's answer choices, but the proctor will need to log in with the student's online test ticket and select the responses in the DRC Insight test engine for the student's test to be scored. This slide offers an example of the online presentation of an item to a student. Note the red box that appears around the second answer choice to let readers know about a pet. This red box will appear around the answer choice when it is selected. In this example, to let the readers know about a pet was selected by either touching that word on a touch-enabled device or using an input device such as a mouse to select the response with the DRC Insight pointer. Use your mouse, or if you're using a touch device, use your finger to select an answer choice. The red box will appear around the selected answer choice. To deselect the answer choice, you may click on the red box around the selected answer or click the recycle button in the upper left of the item. You may also select another answer choice at any time. This slide offers an example of paper presentation of an item to a student. Note the indicator information that appears around the question number only appears in the print-on-demand student booklet, and proctors should instruct the students to disregard the information if they should ask about it. If administering the test in sequence, simply select the right arrow button in the upper left-hand corner of the screen to advance through items one by one. The proctor may determine the order in which the test items are presented. The go-to question tool facilitates this option. Select the drop-down arrow next to the question as pointed to here, and then the number will open and you'll be able to select which item you'd like to advance to. So once you click on that drop-down arrow, it'll give you all of the items in that section of the test. So if you're doing ELA, you'll have drop-down for all the test items in ELA, so you can, if you wanted to navigate it that way, you could move around from item to item. Otherwise, you will just click on the right arrow to go to the next item. Whether administering test items in sequence or in another order, it is important to note that once the proctor completes an item and moves to another item, the proctor may not go back and repeat the previous item. Pausing the test, the proctor may determine the number of items given in one setting. The proctor may stop, then return to testing based upon the individual student's needs. Online student test tickets will not expire to facilitate flexible scheduling of the student's testing. Select the pause button in the upper right hand if a student needs to take a short break during the test session. When a test is paused, the content is removed from the screen for test security reasons, and a 15-minute timer will begin counting down. You may select the resume button, here is shown on the screen, at any time within the 15-minute interval to return to the test without needing to log back in. Selecting resume will place the student back to the same test item that appeared prior to selecting pause. If time expires, you will need to log in again with the online student test ticket to resume testing. Pausing and exiting. Proctors may pause and exit a test if a student takes breaks longer than 15 minutes or needs to resume testing on another day. Select the pause button, then select the exit button from the pause screen to exit the test immediately. The exit screen will appear and you'll have the option to resume the test or exit and close the test. Select the exit button to return to the login screen, then close the DRC Insight software. If a test is exited using the exit button, the test remains in an in-progress status. The proctor may log back in to the test with the student's online test ticket at any time to resume testing. And as a reminder, once the proctor completes an item with the student and moves to another item, the proctor may not go back to the previous item. Inactivity. If a test is inactive for 15 minutes during a test administration, the test will exit. Inactivity is defined as no interaction with the mouse movement, or if you have a touch screen, there would be no interaction for 15 minutes. A warning that the test has paused will appear on the screen after 14 minutes, and a pause timer inactivity. Select the resume button before the time expires to be placed back in the test. The test exits when the pause timer expires and the session inactive message displays. The proctor must select OK to return to the login screen. The proctor may log back into the test with the student's online test ticket at any time to resume testing. Close the DRC Insight software if testing will not resume for a prolonged period of time. Review or end test. When the student has completed the test, either by answering all the questions or when the proctor determines that the student will provide no response to the remainder of the test items, select the review or end test button. And a note, the proctor does not need to advance through each item on the test if the student stops responding to items. Instead, select the review end button on the last item administered to the student. The review page will show whether each item is answered or unanswered. And just a quick note for the NSCAS alternate, the flag item feature is not enabled. From this page, the proctor can select the question number to go back to the item, or select the return to questions button to return to the item that was displayed when the review end test button was selected. And if a student is finished testing, select the end test button. Submit test. After selecting the end test button, a pop-up box will instruct the proctor to either select the return to review button to continue testing, or the submit button to indicate the student's test is complete. Once a proctor selects the submit button, the test will go into a completed status and lock. The student's online test ticket will no longer allow access to a completed test. If for some reason you would need to get back into that test because you realize that it wasn't really complete, the district assessment coordinator will need to contact DRC customer service, and that information will be available on the last slide on this PowerPoint in order to unlock those test tickets that are in a completed status. So they would need to reach out to customer service, and customer service does have the ability to unlock those tests. The district assessment coordinators do not. Testing codes. The testing process may be concluded when a student does not respond to a minimum of 1 item, and the proctor determines the student will have no response to the remainder of the test items. An administrator must enter the testing code. Student was administered 1 or more items, but did not provide a response for each subject for which the situation occurs. The process for recording testing codes is covered in the teacher or the test administration training for district assessment contacts. If the student was administered the test online, the proctor should select the Review End Test button on the last item administered. If the student was administered the test on paper, there is no need for the proctor to log in with the student's online test ticket. The student will be counted as a participant in the NSCAS alternate. However, incomplete items will be scored as incorrect. Optional tools. There are 4 optional tools on the NSCAS alternate available to all students. Proctors will determine the level of student interaction with the technology based on the needs and abilities of each student, and can assist the student in selecting the tools, buttons, and options in the DRC Insight. Proctors should access online tools training prior to administering the test to be aware of and understand the functionality of the tools, buttons, and options that are available during the test. Some students may only use some of the available tools depending on their needs and abilities. The magnifier. The magnifier tool allows you to enlarge the entire screen. To use the tool, choose the magnifier, and then choose the level of magnification. You'll see here on the screen, there are 4 levels of magnification. Use your mouse, or if you're using a touch device, use your finger to scroll the window left and right, up and down to see the rest of the enlarged screen. To close the tool, choose the magnifier button, then off. Line guide. The line guide tool presents a blue horizontal line that brings a focus to a single line in the text. Select the line guide button to activate the tool. The tool appears as a single blue line with a blue handle on the right side of the line. Again, students will use their mouse, or if they're using a touch device, they'll use their finger to select the line or the handle to move the line up and down. Choose the line guide button again to stop using the line guide tool. Color choices. Select the options button, then the color preferences. The color preferences feature changes the background color of the test to one of the available color preferences. You'll use your mouse, or if you're using a touch device, use your finger to select the desired background color. The color can be changed at any time during the test. Use your mouse, or if you're using a touch device, you'll use your finger to select the blue bar at the top of the color preferences window to move the window to a different location on the screen if needed. Choose the options button and then choose color preferences again. Select black and white, then close the color preferences window to go back to the original look. Masking. The masking feature provides one or more masks to block one or more parts of the question. Masking should not be used to clue the students to select a specific answer choice. An appropriate use of masking might be to hide responses to draw a student's focus to the prompt. To use masking option, choose the masking button and then choose Add Mask. The masking window opens. Choose the Add Mask button to add a mask. The mask will appear in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And you'll use your mouse, or if you're using a touch device, use your finger to move the mask into the desired position. Use your mouse, or if you're using a touch device, use your finger to select the lower right-hand corner of the mask, indicated by the 3 white diagonal lines, to adjust the size of the mask. You can make up to 6 masks for each test item. To hide every mask, choose the Show Hide Mask button in the masking window. To show the hidden masks, choose the Show Hide button again. Choose the X or select the X in the upper right-hand corner of the mask to close that window. Online tools training, or we call them OTTs, introduce the functionality of the DRC Insight online test engine and provide an interactive opportunity for proctors and students to become familiar with the system before testing. In addition to including questions like those students will see on the test, OTTs include the practice hints for using the DRC Insight tools. And OTTs are accessible via the DRC Insight or publicly at this link. And the Google Chrome browser is required to use the public OTTs. OTTs continued. Download the NSCAS alternate OTTs administration manuals at the DRC Insight portal. It'll be underneath general information and documents. The NSCAS alternate OTT booklets are also available to provide practice for the paper administration. Select the current administration in the dropdown to access the correct documents. Select the online tools training on the DRC Insight portal page to access the OTTs. And again, if you have the test engine software downloaded, you'll have the option to open the online tools training, and then below that it will say test sign in. Select the online tools training on the OTT selection page, then select the subject to display the OTTs available for that subject. So if you are to select the mathematics, you'll see mathematics grades 3 through 5, grades 6 through 8, and then high school. It would be similar if you were to select the English language arts or science as well. So this concludes the training session. If you have any questions after viewing this training, please contact the DRC customer service at either the number listed here or via email, and they are available throughout the day. So if you have questions that come up even a few days from now after viewing, or even up until the testing window, here are the numbers, the phone number, and the email address that our customer service team can be reached at. And they are very prompt in their responses, and if they're unable to answer your question immediately, they will reach out to myself or other members of my team to get your answers quickly, so that you can continue either testing your student or training your team. Thank you for joining us today. DRC is here to assist with any NSCAS alternate test administration questions, so please feel free to reach out and have a great day.